Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the FeiyuTech AK2000S. This gimbal retails for $350 US, and it was furnished to me by the manufacturer for review. This is not the first time FeiyuTech has done so. Those of you that follow the channel already know I've covered several gimbals from FeiyuTech, and they all are relatively solid offerings, especially when you take into account pricing and what they're capable of accomplishing. And they've also, in my opinion, helped change the landscape because, after all, my first gimbal was a FeiyuTech AK2000. I did purchase that with my own money, and I really did enjoy using that. Of course, then the Ronin came out, which I picked up immediately, and that's a much heavier gimbal. A lot of people love it. I personally am more interested in lightweight stuff, and since then Feiyu has sent me a few other gimbals, the AK4000, 4500, and those are great as well. But if you're looking to spend less and get something that is brand new and at least promises some polish not originally available at such a low price point, the AK2000S seems to be that product. So let me go ahead and get it out of the box, and then I'll talk about performance. I mean, 14 hours of runtime with this gimbal, very lightweight. It can support up to nearly 5 pounds in terms of payload, so that's already impressive. And it's got a little rosewood handle, which I think looks nice. We'll see if it actually is. But, you know, Feiyu has done a fairly good job, I think, again, changing the landscape. There is a follow focus motor available. At least this review unit does not include that. You can already see by the size of the box, this is fairly small. Nothing else on the packaging, I mean, that I'm going to point out. I mean, they do mention the intelligent touchscreen, which is on basically all of their gimbals these days. The versatile arm for low-angle shots, 3-axis motor lock, and quick release, and that's pretty much it. But again, Feiyu, I think, has made the industry far more affordable. That's why we now see more affordable options, even from companies like DJI, because Feiyu really did push the competition. And I'm not saying there aren't other manufacturers out there. There absolutely are. But Feiyu, I feel, has been the most aggressive. And the last gimbal that they sent me for review, the AK-45, I think really stepped it up a level, not just payload capacity, but of course the magic wand, that remote to control it, that ended up being replicated, copied by DJI. So that tells you a little bit about how much Feiyu has been innovating these days and not playing copycat. So the box is open. We're 3 minutes in. Let's get down to it. There is the follow focus motor hole that I would have loved Feiyu to have furnished me with. Unfortunately, it's not part of this, but not really complaining because, in my opinion, this is more about keeping it lightweight. You know, I can already tell you, feels well built, and I do see the polish. I mean, even looking at the AK4500 that I have across the studio, this actually looks more substantial than that much more expensive, much more feature-rich gimbal. So this is a good sign. And I'm very interested in their Qing product, QING, which isn't a gimbal, but is a hybrid product. And you can also see that Feiyu has changed their branding a little bit. So again, this just looks, it feels good. You know, you still have an OLED display there. You still have dedicated still and video capture buttons because this does have 2 USB ports. You can see one for the follow focus, one for control of the camera itself. We still have a front trigger, quick charge. I'm not sure exactly what the quick charge runtime is, but it does claim to have quick charge. So these are all things that I like to see. And again, it just seems like Feiyu is moving in the right direction in terms of making a more polished product. See if I can get that rubber to stick. And I just did. Our locking mechanisms for all the access points are here. Another one here. And that's another thing I really like that Feiyu, at least as far as I know, was the first to implement. It makes balancing and just, you know, getting the shot you want all that much more simple. So let's move away from this for a moment. But again, I like the feel, I like the design. You know, it definitely feels more ergonomic than their other builds, and that's impressive, again, considering this is, you know, a less expensive option. So I think it's Feiyu embracing that they'd like, you know, not just photographers and videographers to be interested in gimbal products, but the general public. So this is the low angle handle, which can be mounted so that essentially if you want to create shots like this, I believe that's the correct orientation. I mean, it has to be actually mounted right there. I'll get to that later. And it's nice that it comes included. It certainly didn't need to be. We also have, of course, as always, a little tripod attachment with a 1/4-20 screw. So if you want to extend the gimbal, you can, and that does make it a little bit more, I would say, friendly when holding, because now you've got a little more leverage. If you want to go two-handed, it's going to make your life a little bit easier. Solid metal construction across the board, and again, the display on this AK2000S seems to be larger than what's on, maybe it's the exact same size. I'll have to take a second look. In this pouch, let's see what we've got. I believe these are going to be all of our cables, and they are. So your control cables, something you generally have to purchase separately with something like a DJI product. So this is to cover virtually every manufacturer on the market. I shoot primarily Sony. Those of you that follow my channel already know that. So I know I'm not going to have a problem with Feiyu. I mean, their branding even used to be Alpha-esque. And then we just have, of course, an Allen key, some more mounting screws, and then this, I believe, not I believe, I know is to attach the bracing mount for the lens of choice, which is right here. Let me go ahead and throw this back in the little Feiyu bag. Another nice thing about this, you know, I've always liked that Feiyu has gone with external batteries, but in this setup, they did forego that in favor of trying to, I think, streamline the design of the product and make it a little bit more travel friendly, because while I liked the fact that Feiyu gimbals traditionally give you the ability that, you know, when it's dead, you don't have to have a battery pack attached to it. You could have another set of batteries to just throw in. Now, with the battery on board and a 14-hour rating, it doesn't seem like we're sacrificing anything at the expense of giving up those user replaceable batteries. Quick release plate. I liked what they did on the 4000 and the 4500, and this is no exception. It looks very similar, if not identical. So make sure my orientation is correct, and I believe it is. Going the wrong way, maybe. But overall, let's see. It's very tight on this. I might be going the wrong way. I thought I was following the arrows. But you know what? I'll save this for when I actually get into it, because it is really, really tight. And I know why. It's because I think this is an optional quick mount, or at least it seems to be one that you can remove this. I don't know. I'm going to have to spend some time looking at this, because it's a little bit different than their previous offering. But overall, if this performs as I expect it to, I mean, at $350, I think this is going to be very tough to beat, because when I look at the rest of the competition, they don't generally necessarily give you everything that Feiyu does. And again, ergonomics seem to be relatively resolved here. I'm going to power this on and see how much juice we have out of the box. There you can see language selection right there. I was assuming that was the select button, but it appears it is not. Let's see if I can crack the code. Is it the trigger? It's not the trigger. Oh, not trying to break anything. The jog dial doesn't do anything in terms of menu navigation, so it's just trying to figure out which button will advance us. Oh, I'm going to spend time with it. How about that? And I will come back and give you an educated and thorough analysis of this, because again, we've come a long way that gimbals are now at $350 and promise 5 pounds of, well, 4.85 to be literally technical, of payload capacity. It's just not something that I would have thought we would have had this quickly, but then again, the industry moves fast and gimbals have proliferated at a incredible rate, and that's why this is now gimbal number, I don't know, 5 or 6 that I've had come into the studio between review units and purchases. So we'll see how it performs. All I know is I do want, lighter weight gimbals that can perform for mirrorless cameras, and this checks that box. They also have a G6 Max, which is more geared towards, cameras, action cameras, the RX100. It is lighter than this. And I told you I would give you a spec rundown in terms of, what this is capable of. I already told you that it's a 14-hour runtime and 4.85 payload. The quick charge, FeiyuTech is setting at 1.5 hours, which for 14 hours, if that is accurate, is very good. I already mentioned the 2 USB ports for connecting their lens motor for the follow focus and zoom control. The Arca-Swiss compatible quick release plate we just looked at, the touchscreen display we just looked at, and I probably should have just touched it, right? So you don't need to use a select button. I should have known better because I have used Feiyu products in the past. In terms of landscape and portrait modes, it of course can handle both of that. It does have a companion application, which I already have installed on my phone because I already use FeiyuTech gimbals. So that's nothing new to me. Capable of inception mode, something a lot of less expensive gimbals like this generally don't or can't handle. And I already went over the actual motor locks for easier balancing and storage, which, Feiyu, as far as I know, was the first to do. And remember, if you do want that follow focus and zoom motor control, it's another $50 US, which I don't think is in any way, shape, or form too expensive for that additional feature if you know you're going to need it. But that pretty much covers, again, my unboxing and first look at the AK2000S. Seems like a well-built, solid offering, and I like the changes that they're taking on here. I mean, they're trying to give you everything in a smaller form factor, and I think it looks like they've accomplished that. I'll know once I start putting it through the paces. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.